Welcome to week 4 of ACC 302 Auditing Second Course. Today we take up Chapter 4, excuse me please, not Chapter 4, Lesson 4, which is comprised of Chapters 7 and 8 from the Auditing Accounting Estimate book. Today's theme is essentially estimates. Many of the values that will be recorded in the audit are estimated values when we're looking at items like assets. What is their fair market value in addition to their book value? We also look at estimates of financial amounts that are indeterminate. For instance, pension valuation, or litigation, where there's an uncertainty that it will even become due. So as we take a look at this, let's start with auditing accounting estimates. And they give, to begin with, some examples of accounting estimates. Allowances for doubtful accounts would be 1. 2, future pension and warranty expenses. 3, litigation. 4, net realizable value of inventory. And 5, percentage of completion of revenues. That's accounts receivable, of course. We then look at the responsibilities of management and the audit team in this regard. The management's responsibilities are fourfold: identifying situations in which estimates are needed, developing assumptions based on the most likely circumstances and events, determining estimated amounts. Estimate follows GAAP and disclosure is adequate. And finally, establish an entity's internal controls that may reduce the likelihood of material misstatements. So these are typical of the management's responsibilities. The auditor has 3 basic responsibilities. First of all, to obtain appropriate evidential material to provide reasonable assurance that, number 1, all estimates have been developed by management completely, that number 2, the estimates are reasonable and the auditor should consider that management based its judgment on both subjective and objective factors, and third, that the accounting estimates presented are in conformity with GAAP. And then the plan and performance procedures with attitude of professional skepticism at all times is our ongoing expectation. Procedures to be performed by the auditor are several. In step 1, all estimates have been developed at the completion of step 1. Step 2, estimates are reasonable. That is, we look at the valuation to judge them to be reasonable. There are 3 criteria here: review and test the management process, develop your own expectations of estimates, and review the events subsequent. And finally, step 3, estimates follow GAAP and are properly disclosed. Procedures for developing all estimates are as follows: A, inquiry of management. B, evaluate information concerning litigation, claims, and settlements. This is its own special area. Number C, review estimates of stockholders and directors' meetings. And D, review changes in the entity's business or operating strategy, if there are any. We continue on page 81 with step 2, procedures for evaluating the reasonableness of accounting estimates are as follows. They give you A, B, C, 3 reasonable criteria. A is review and test the management process, and then there are a number of subpoints here. B, develop independent expectations, and C, review subsequent events and compare them to the estimates made prior. If there is any significant difference, that does not indicate necessarily bad reporting. It just means further investigation is needed. There are a number of questions following the end of Chapter 7, and you'll find those on page 82. Take a close look at them. Finally, on page 83, we have auditing fair value measurements and disclosures. In general, we're measuring and representing and disclosing a number of companies' assets, liabilities, and components of equity when we do this. Fair value measurements may arise both at the initial recording of transactions and later on when values have changed. Fair value measurements may be relatively simple in situations in which there are active markets, but more complex when there is no active market. Obviously, we're relying on the price as set by demand and supply as the best criterion. Audit procedures then follow, and there are two sets of three. Take a close look at those. Our discussion questions are for this term, and again, the whole theme here is estimating and the responsibility of the auditor in generating and disposing of management-generated estimates. Okay, we'll see you next week.